what were you struggling with? Why did you decide to reach out and look into the stuff that I talk about and teach? What gravitated to you and spoke to you and went, yeah, this is something I do need to learn more about?
I think this is a perfect time for this because I just had a conversation with another guy that we were talking about masculinity. We were talking about what's happened with my generation, which is the generation in their 30s and then the generation in their 40s. And it's in regards to the fact that we grew up with, like I could literally just relate immediately to some of the stuff he was saying. Let's check this out. So I asked him, how's work? He's like, falling apart. I was like, how's your marriage? I don't know. I feel like it's going pretty bad, getting worse. I'm like, okay. And when I went there, by the way, I just asked like how, even before that question, I even asked, is your woman in a feminine essence or a masculine essence? And he's like, yeah, she's definitely in the masculine. Immediately I was like, okay, something's up there. That's when I asked the marriage question. That's when he said that. And I was like, okay, let me tell you something. Just so you know, he's the guy, he's our developer who developed your website. And I was like, so you know what's the funny thing? We've spoken so much about our personal lives together that I can tell that we pretty much had the same childhood. And I said, were you abandoned as a kid? He's like, no, I have both my mom and dad. I was like, isn't that interesting? Because I did not have a father, and my mother abandoned me emotionally. And that's what I discovered through my journey, so to say. And then I asked him, so tell me what happened. He's like, well, I was actually raised by my grandparents, like basically. Okay. And then I said, okay, so yes, your mom and dad did abandon you emotionally, basically, just like mine. So hold on a second. And I said, so here's why I could tell that something was even bonding us as friends. And it's because we both had pretty much the same childhood. I said, did you rebel against your parents when you wanted to do your career, whatever career you were choosing earlier? He's like, yes, I did the same thing. And you know what? I also said, I'm going to show you how I can do it, how I can make money doing this, how I can achieve that. And we went down this rabbit hole of, wait a second, this is not just you and me. This is a generational thing for people in their 30s, men in their 30s and 40s that have grown up raising ourselves, basically, over mature. And then we get addicted to video games, addicted to anything. It could be porn, it could be drugs, it could be whatever. I mean, I myself had to go through those phases of alcohol, right? Or even getting addicted to clubs. Like, we're going to find love at a club. And eventually addiction to career, which is the safest addiction, right? And money, because that solves all the problems until it doesn't. Yeah. So at that point in the conversation, that's when it hit me. It's actually what's influenced why I got into Greatness University, which is to find my manhood, so to say, my masculine essence, my energy, to discover the parts of me that were never seen, never developed, that were just tucked under the rug. Yeah. And to be able to own that energy, to be able to use it to say no, to say yes, to go the direction that I know is purposeful, that is right for me. And that's when I realized it affected every area of my life. It affects all of the areas of our lives in our generation. For me, it's been, I went through the phase of just following, social media influencers. I mean, you can see guys out there that are putting themselves on their highlight reel, like it's the jet planes and the cars and the ladies and all that. And you go, well, that's what I should focus on. That's the life. That's a life, right? That's a rich, fulfilling life. But again, I've gone on that train several times, up and down, up and down. And somehow something always felt like it was missing.
And you brought up something that is the biggest stumbling block I've seen in everyone's life. It's universal, whether you're 20 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old, 50, 60 years old. My childhood was fine. I mean, just like your friend. Tell me about your childhood. Oh, you asked him, were you abandoned? No, not at all. Who raised you? My grandmother. The complete disconnection from truth and the impact of that. And it was the same for you. Almost everyone's like, no, it has nothing to do with back there. That was fine. How do you make the transition from, how did you make the transition to go, maybe there is something about that. Maybe it's affecting my life. And what does that mean? They're like, how did you get to that? Because I know that was it's similar for everybody. No, it's nothing back there. It has to be something I'm doing now. It can't be from back there. That was all fine, but it never is. It's always back there. So how did you make the transition? And in your conversation with him, I don't know if it led to it, but do you see where I'm going with that? And
Oh, yeah.
how did you overcome that and get into reality to go, oh my God, that's where it all starts. And that's the one place no one else is taking us and showing us, oh, you have to go here.
The transition, I know exactly when it happened. I think it starts with the mindset of, wait a second, too many things in my life have felt like are falling on my lap, and I'm just accepting the scraps of life, so to say. I'm accepting a job because it pays the bills. And just staying there, not moving on from that, even when I ask for more in that job and there's rejection for that. And there's like, and you're capable. Like for me, I knew I was capable of more. And it was like, no, we're going to hire someone on top of you. You're just going to keep doing that job. That's one thing. Another one was, wait a second, I have eventually produced a great career. I have produced many aspects of my life that you would consider successful. Yet something was wrong always in the relationship side and the love life and family. What's going on there? And I discovered the fact that I was tired of just being submissive to, okay, so this is just what it is. No. It became now, there was this anger of, I have got to take control of my life. I know I'm capable. And I've accomplished some incredible things in my career. So there has to be a way to transition that into my other aspects. So taking control means I got to skill up. I got to find out what the secret is. I got to find out what's the code, how to crack this formula, whatever it is. And that's when I started searching for the truth and clarity and just letting go of the BS, letting go of the addictions, letting go of all the things that weren't really fulfilling me. And taking responsibility started happening because I just couldn't go back to living a life where I knew I was operating at 60%.
Why did you think I had the answer versus everyone else? Because you've been through countless programs, big name, I'll let you decide if you want to share their names or not, but you've been through all the names we know. Why did you decide that what I talk about was different, was the solution? I'll let you I don't want to put words in your mouth. But yeah, why did you gravitate towards, my book, the university, and all the things I promote and I advocate of, wait a minute, there's a gap in that process and this is it. why did that reach you and you go, no, this is what I have to do?
I have multiple perspectives about that. And one is the one that I had when I first interacted with your insights. And that was, this feels heavy, draining. It felt like negative. And I was like, why is that? I did ask the question, why is that? Because there was a part of me that went, I should just be able to take anything and just let it be or not feel anything, right? If it's all good, why is it causing that? So that was my first reaction. Now looking back, going through a transformation, what I can see is that it was, first of all, your relatability to your story, the fact that you've shared some stories in regards to your childhood, your mother, your family, that were allowing me to discover, wait a second, like, it wasn't all peaches, cream, butterflies, and rainbows when I was a kid. There was some heavy stuff going on back there. And it started pointing at those events in a way where I could start seeing them through the lens of an adult rather than from that lens of a child that I had back then. Because back then I could not understand a lot of that. And you just kind of pretend to forget, I guess. And you then looking back as an adult, you're looking at it and analyzing and going, you separate, right? You separate yourself from, that was my mom and my dad. Like, you almost look at it like, okay, and another adult acts that way. Is that right or wrong? At least for what was going on. And not to say that I was starting to notice to blame or anything like that, but more like to understand, okay, is that what's fueling my decision on this thing today? Is that what is creating this association of a feeling? And then all of a sudden I can let a feeling take over basically my actions, my decisions, my consciousness when I'm about to make a business decision, a romantic decision, any important decision, or any type of interaction, right? Where it could have a side effect.
So are you saying that because no one else in the industry ties in, that our feelings influence our business decision, relationship decisions, family decisions? They all make it thought-based. They go, oh, don't even worry about, none of that matters. You started to notice, wait a minute, actually, that's right. That feeling is driving everything. Is that what you're saying?
You're pointing out exactly at what it is, which is the realization that the feeling first can give you the clue as to what is the thought that links back to when, the image, and then what is the action that's coming from it now. And what are the actions that maybe you could have done in the past?
Takes all the confusion away. Now it's like, now I know why I do this, because it started, you got the process, whereas many times in life, my experience and all the other information that led me to my discoveries was, okay, but what's the process? Like, just change it. Well, you can't just change it. Why can't I just change it? Like, that's, for me, that was what's lacking, is why aren't they talking? Science shows, I mean, Antonio Damasio's, and oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank on his name, biology belief, Bruce Lipton. We are our environment. We emote before we think. It's like been out for 20 years. Why isn't anyone leading with emotion, that we process emotionally before we think? This is the process. They've left all of that out. And once I got that, it was like, oh, now I know why I'm a mess and how my childhood created all of this and everything. And so what I hear, I think, is you were finally given the skills and tools to use a process to go, oh, this is why. And then this is what I need to do differently. Is that a good way of explaining it?
Skills, tools, and first the understanding. I think there's the first stage has been the
Aware.
awareness of the, because like, as I was even sharing this with another friend who's a guy as well, and I was talking about, these things about clearing the past, and the attitude was more like, oh yeah, no, some people talk about that, but I don't think it's that important. I I have come to understand how it is crucial. It is a priority. It should be, I realize, is the number one priority because it affects everything in life. And what I also realized was when you start understanding this, at first it felt like pure chaos. It felt like everything in life was falling apart even more now that I was looking at that. It felt like now I'm dismantling the things that I thought were great. And then, yes, it took some real effort to hold on to that so that I could fortunately realize, wait a second, it was actually for good because that's not really deep inside what I wanted. That
And
was not all truth.
that's the experience I've heard from everybody. That when you start this process, it's incredibly disorienting. And you're like, this has got to be like the thought is, I need to stop this. But inside, the feeling is an overwhelming, resounding, a knowing beyond faith. It's a knowing this is right. This is right. And this is working. And that is what allows the process to continue, because the chaos is just like you said, it's challenging. Wait a minute, we've all been taught the world works this way, and I think you use this word, it's negative. It feels like, oh, that means I'm bad or wrong. I've looked at the world this way. I don't want to admit that. That feels very disorienting and uncomfortable. But there's that deep knowing of, yeah, but there's something here. This is okay. And to me, that's what I've heard over and over is that it's a clarity of truth you've never had before that gets you through that initial disorientation, and then you're like, oh my God, I see it now. Is that a good way of characterizing it for you?
Absolutely. It's the door to new possibilities, new abilities, new beginnings, new awakenings, your dreams fulfilling, basically.
Yeah.
And I'm experiencing it right now through expanding my business in a way where as I'm doing it and it's working, I'm looking at it going, it feels so easy. I should have done this months ago, years ago. And I'm
Well,
like,
what scared you from doing it?
that's the question, right? Is that something that you're going for right now?
Yeah,
Like,
what scared you from acting on it? Because we've known each other for a while, and it scared you for a while. And
I haven't even thought about that right now.
yeah, you were scared of
What are
me.
you doing?
In the beginning, it was like, no, this negative. It was scary to you. And what made you face that fear and decide you had it couldn't go on?
The pain from the chaos was way too worse.
There you go.
And going back to another, um, I call it the full life catastrophe. Because I mean, I've been homeless for that stuff. Like I've lost meaningful relationships in work and love life because of that. There's no need. It's not worth it. It's way more worth it to lean into learning this stuff that gets you through, yes, some pretty intense emotions and looking at things that are very uncomfortable, but to then be able to take ownership and control of those emotions and the future to be able to take those actions. Because one of the most recent things that I addressed was my relationship with my mother, and getting this new perspective and awareness in the beginning did make me feel, I chose, like I say chose now, but in the past I would say, oh, it made me feel resentful, right? It made me feel like I was a victim back then, and there were so many things that my parents did wrong, and this is why I'm this way, and that's why I'm never going to be able to do this and that. And that's the story basically that we believe. It's the story that we loop. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to have that because of this. It's the rationale that comes from it. So
The pain holds us in that rationale until we clean up that emotion. The emotion what you're describing is the emotion from the pain that's never been addressed creates a belief, a thought that I'm forever handicapped. This is just my lot in life. I can't do anything. When in reality, we just need to have the awareness, learn the skills and tools to switch that emotion, and then we get a different outcome.
And
And
that's the beautiful thing, that then you basically gave the process of, when the feeling comes up, you're reversing it. Basically, you're reversing the control, so that the feeling is not controlling my thoughts. Now I'm actually, with my thoughts, controlling my feelings, and I'm able to feel different so that I can act differently.
yeah,
And that means, all of a sudden, back in the days, I can make better decisions in my business. I can make better decisions about, in the past, who I reach out to in my love life, right? Because I was attracting even the wrong crowd, right? Whether it's as a client or as a potential partner, right? That was the thing. But to, now looking back and being a partnership where I'm fulfilled, happy, and it's going in the right direction in a way that's never gone before, that's huge for me. And also in business, it's huge for me because I've been in that cycle, hamster wheel, both in love and in business, of same thing again, same thing again. It's up and it's down. It's up and it's down. What the heck is going on? And yes, we can feel, in the past, I've pointed the finger at everybody else. The client is the problem. I mean, I literally remember telling a client back in the day, I love you as a friend, but I just really hate you as a client. So you're the problem. It does not even any sense to that when you think about it. Now, and I was thinking about it just like a couple of weeks back. I'm like, man, like, sometimes you can destroy relationships like that, saying things like that, and acting like that. And it's really hard to repair them. And not to say that it's all on me, but at least that part was on me. And in my love life, it was the same thing. There was plenty that I could have done with this level of awareness in my past relationships to make them better than they were. Now, of course, I got lessons from it, but my goodness, I've come so far ever since getting these skills and tools. It's like night and day.
what I think I heard you say was, now you have the awareness when the emotion comes up, which creates the thought, which is either they're the problem or I'm the problem. You now can discern, wait a minute, this feeling is created by something I haven't dealt with. And if I rework that feeling, I'll get a different outcome. And now you have the process to do that, which allows you to view the other person completely different, and also allows you to attract different clients, different relationships. Everything shifts. And so it's using thought instead of being driven by thought. It's letting emotion drive, and then using thought to ask questions about the emotion, to learn about it, and then reorient it and get the emotional skill to have a different feeling. Allows you to now see, oh wow, had I had these skills and tools, I might have seen this client and this relationship completely different, but that was about me and where I was emotionally at the time. Is that a good way of explaining it?
Absolutely.
What's the Would you say there's one or more, or what's the, I don't know, the greatest tool or greatest advice, the biggest thing you've gotten that's like, this was earth shattering to me, of this changed my life when I learned this through my program and all the different things that you've encountered? What would you boil it down to?
But the confrontation model is the first thing that came to me, because it allowed me to express myself, express my wants and needs in a way where it didn't point the finger at the other person. And it allowed me to stand my ground when I needed to say what I needed to say. And it's actually healed relationships with my family. It's healed relationships with it's healed relationships with clients. It's also nurtured and really blossomed beautiful relationships that I never thought would be possible in business and in my love life. And can I say, is that how guys say it, by the way?
It makes fighting fun. Like fights are wonderful because that's the outcome. When you have this model, what you get is massive connection, intimacy, truth. It's like in safety. Because what's our greatest fear in fighting? Oh my God, they're going to abandon me or reject me or argue with me. They're not going to listen to me. But when you use this model to have a discussion with somebody and you understand that, wait a minute, it's not that I win. It's not that I get my way. It's that I express myself and I'm just looking to be known and vice versa. From that place, compromise happens, connection happens, love happens. We stop the fight for who's the bigger victim. And now we're just concerned about being known. And that's the connection all of us want. Just please know me. Just
I would have never known that being raised in a family where I got used to just holding back the tears, swallowing the emotions, not saying much, that's what guys do, right? Would actually affect me in relationships with my clients.
yeah.
Of course, in a romantic relationship, it's also going to affect, but would have never thought that it would affect me in business and trying to achieve my financial goals. It blew my mind how embracing conflict, like you just said, to be able to connect, to be able to lean into the conflict and connect at a deeper level with the person, how I was actually able to serve better, to show up better, and to have even those people appreciate me more.
Well, I just heard a second thing there kind of mixed in. One, the confrontation model, but two, the awareness that everything from childhood, now you see, you had no clue that by not clearing those emotions up, by not reworking the emotions around the things you went through, it was affecting every area of your life and robbing you of your full potential. That now that you have that awareness and have worked on those emotions and now created a different emotional chemistry.
Yeah.
And it was like, who would think that's the way to improve your business, have the relationship you want? Is that, I mean, that was the second thing I heard you say as well. I would have never guessed that this is where you look. I thought it's a business book, you know?
But and that's what I'm talking about. That there's no emotional mastery in the business book,
Yeah.
but it plays a huge part. Think about it this way, I realized if you play a chess game and you just go over your impulsive emotion, guaranteed, try this with a computer, guaranteed you're going to lose very fast. A chess master thinks 10 to 15 moves ahead. You can only do that if you're in control of your emotions. You're not just acting on impulse.
Yeah. You, without emotional mastery, you can't be at your best business wise. It's just not possible. You know, listen to any great business person. And when they describe the biggest business deals that they've ever made, the biggest successes, they'll describe it as a feeling. I just felt. It's not a thought process. Yet when they describe it in a book, they never dive into the feeling process. They try and keep it all analytical. And it's like, did you see, you're writing about what the real answer is, but you're not telling the person reading the book that this is where the answer is. And so people read this book and go, oh, I just need to be like Warren Buffett or so-and-so. But Warren Buffett isn't even aware of how the emotion guided him. And so people can't translate that into their own life because no one's showing them, wait a minute, this was an emotional process that led to a business decision. And most people are just unaware, even if they make good ones. They're like, how did I do that? Well, when you understand that your emotions are driving all of that then you can repeat it. That's the difference.
Hmm.
What would you say to someone who is where you were? I don't want to talk about childhood. The past doesn't matter. I don't want to be uncomfortable. I don't want to deal with emotions. Someone on the fence. It's like, yeah, I hear what you're saying. It all sounds good, but ugh, there's an emotion that's going, I don't know. I don't know if this is for me. What would you say to them?
What I would say to someone that's in that position where they wanted to get to that next level, whether it's their business, their career, or even save a relationship or create a beautiful relationship with their loved one, is if they're saying or thinking to themselves, I don't want to live in the past. That doesn't feel good to me. Well, the reality is, I said the same thing. And it wasn't until I started looking at it, the beautiful things started happening. And as uncomfortable as it was, and as painful as it was sometimes, it was all for good. It needs to be what it is. If that same person's thinking, well, I think I could just manage without it. I'll just figure out another way. I'll like sometimes it's funny we think this way. I just YouTube my way to success, right? And I thought I thought about it this way, like how well is that going this far? Because for me, I think about time more than anything as our most valuable resource. We only have 24 hours in a day. If you're doing something you're not enjoying, no matter what amount of hours that is, you're contributing to those feelings that are going to keep holding you back. So if you're not willing to face what needs to be faced, you're basically creating your own prison for whatever situation you're in. And the only way to get the key is to go through those uncomfortable feelings and to go take these new actions and join programs like this, or even just get in a conversation. You know, everything begins with just a simple, easy action. It doesn't have to be that you just jump into this whole wave of change. Even just one step today for me made a difference.
Have you noticed, because what you're describing is a feeling. It's too much. It's too much change. It's too, and I don't know that I'm ready to go there. But have you noticed that feeling is created by past pain that hasn't been dealt with? But now that you've reworked it, that feeling rarely shows up in your life. That lack of motivation, that question, all of those things that keep us stuck on the hamster wheel.
Absolutely, because you actually go the other way. You find more sources of inspiration that motivate you because you're no longer hung up with that background task of the feeling and just taking all your energy, taking all your resources and that attention. Now you're free for creative ways to make things happen and contribute and give to people and make life happen. I know this sounds kind of like, okay, is this like the Truman Show or a movie thing? Like, no, it's real. Like, it will happen. You will feel like for me at least, my life felt like it went from black and white to color.
Yeah, and it becomes so. How did you deal with how easy life becomes? Because that's also a piece of the part. We're all taught this model: be a grinder, work hard. Where it's just hard. It's hard. You've got to suffer.
Us, right?
Yeah, suffer and hustle, suffer and hustle. And
Right.
there's some truth to that, but we're sold this model that unless it's miserable, it's not worth it. Well, when you work this process, it becomes the opposite. The less you do, the more comes to you. You don't suffer. It just falls in your lap. But that's also a bit like, whoa, how have you dealt with how easy life is? And because another reshaping of reality of, wow, I this isn't what we've been told. What do I do with this? How do you not how have the skills and tools allowed you to navigate that piece?
As simple as it may sound, it's as truthful and short as enabling just the ability to receive, because learning how to appreciate myself better, give myself what's what's right, what would be also considered self-love, self-esteem, all these things. It has created this ripple effect of now people feel different around me. So now they feel like doing things with me. They feel like giving to me. They feel like being thankful to me. And like I just asked a client for a testimonial yesterday, and she was so excited to give it to me. She doubled her sales, doubled her clientele. She's about to expand to 3 cities now, from starting from one city in just 2 months. And I'm like, girl, you go. And would you mind, like give me a testimonial? She's like, hell yeah. Got it on LinkedIn already. And I remember when I got it and she was so excited to deliver it that a part of me had the feeling of, oh, now do you want one too? Like I want to give something back too because you gave something to me. And I was like, no, wait a second. Receive. That's it. I don't need to feel like I got to do something for you now because you did something for me. I can receive because I do deserve that. I did a great job. She's stoked about it. And that's what I do. I can now keep giving my gift and be okay with receiving. And for some reason, this is just something that's clicked for me recently, but that has just started transforming my ability to expand my business. I don't know exactly what it has to do with, I'm sure you do, but that's what's happening.
Yeah. What about friends and family, the people close to you? What have they noticed? I mean, are there certain things that they picked up on or pointed out of? Because my experience, people go, "What? There's something different about it." That's university members and stuff. Their face starts to light up, and people are like, "What are you doing? What? There's something different about you." What has been their feedback, I guess, or experience of you?
So many mixed
Some.
reactions there.
Oh,
Mixed reactions there. I have a friend that told me, man, you're at a whole nother level of consciousness. I've never seen you so mature, so to say. My mother has noticed, let's just say it this way. My mother saw me as an adult for the first time 2 weeks ago.
really?
Talked to me, yeah, as an adult.
Tell me. I want to hear that. You haven't told me that. I want to hear all about that if you're willing to share it.
Well, what happened was I noticed a pattern where, like, do you want the whole backstory or just like straight to it?
Sure. I just talk. Yeah, I want to hear all of it.
Well, here's the deal. Right now I'm running a business. I am going through changes. I'm really trying to focus on what matters most. And when my mother reached out to me, like this was about a month ago, because she had an emergency surgery on her eye, she was asking me if I could fly over there and take care of her for 2 weeks. And I had this feeling immediately of, man, that sounds like a horrible idea. Like I'm in the middle of all this stuff, and that sounds like it's a lot of work, a lot of energy too. Plus, I was doing a lot of just internal therapeutic work. So I just felt like I had so many emotions that were very intense toward her in a negative way that I was like, I'm not sure if that's going to be even good. And so I ended up doing it anyway. I felt it was the right thing to do. I felt calm when I flew. So when I flew over, I just went ahead, and at first I saw the purpose. I was certain. But then I realized at day 3 of staying there at her place, some emotions, some really intense anger started staring up in the background task. And it came from the way I saw she was living or choosing to live. Like, for example, me walking into the living room and seeing there were no paintings, there were no decorations on the walls, it was all empty walls. Like even the fact that she keep her lights off all day until night. Um, like all these things were just, I was just feeling like, man, this is like repulsive to me. Like, why would you do that to yourself? It's like, come on, like decorate your house, like turn on the lights, like, and it just started adding up with also the feeling of, man, if I can sense it once again, like she sometimes says things that make the situation feel like we're reverting to that kid adult scenario. And it's like, no, 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 I'm an adult. No, I'm an adult. Like, even something as simple as, did you eat today? I was like, when's the last time you worried about what I ate? You know what I mean? Like, I'm 33 years old. I've been taking care of myself for some time. So obviously, when you have a moment like that and let's say you explode in an emotion of anger, it doesn't make sense from the external point of view, because it's like, what's going on with you, right? To me, I was just at least glad that I knew what was going on inside of me, because I was able to look at myself and always ask, why is that so intense? What is that telling me about myself? All these things. And it was the first time I was able to do that in like a long span. Because I'll tell you, like, spending a few days with my mother is one thing in the past, not anymore. But back then, I would have said it that way. Like, spending a few days with her was like one thing, but weeks, it's like, oh my goodness, it's like, it's a lot of energy. And I said it this way: it felt very draining.
Yeah.
It wasn't until, and by the way, before I go there, by draining, I mean, I never felt listened to. I never felt acknowledged as an adult. I never felt that we could talk about real things other than superficial things. Like, superficial things would be like, oh, the next Thanksgiving trip, or, you know, stuff like that. Like, what restaurant we're going to eat at. Like, that's superficial. We could never talk about our family at a deep level, our past at a deep level, why we're a certain way at a deep level, where we're going with our lives, what our ambitions are, like deep, deep, and really at an even super deep level. And because of the new level of self-awareness, because of these skills and tools, I was able to not only bring up these conversations, but master my emotions in a way where I used them to create connection with my mother and my brother, who was there at the time, for the first time in our lives. For the first time in our entire lives, in her entire 50 something years, we sat down, and my entire brother's 21 years, we sat down as a family to eat and talk about meaningful things together.
Wow.
It never happened in my entire life. And it was such a beautiful moment. We did it multiple times during the week. We had dinner together, we had lunch together, we cooked together, we played music together. She got a couple of water fountains together, so I helped her decorate the house, and she was happy about it. It wasn't like I was forcing it. Like, I told her, hey, if you don't want to do this, don't do it. If you want to do it, I'm here. I can help you with it. She took the opportunity. And, but even just that situation of connection, never before, never before. And that connection not only was, as I said, the introduction of, wow, now she sees me an adult, but also I started seeing her as the adult that she really is, and how she has come a long way from 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Nice. And we also started respecting each other. She told me how much I was inspiring her, and vice versa. I mean, I'd seen so much progress in her that I was like, wow, like, you've really come a long way. Even in a year, she's doing different things, growing so much. So, an even more beautiful thing is how even that experience, I can see now that it has contributed to beautiful, meaningful things with friends, other family members, and clients in my life and in my relationship.
It's fascinating to me. Many people will shy away from my work or the things I talk about because they're like, wait a minute, I don't want to look at childhood. And also, in a way, you're telling me I have to hate my parents. And two things, they either go, but there were no problems with my parents, or they go, yeah, there were problems, but I don't want to confront this because they'll just reject me even more. And I already felt rejected. Yet when you do this work, I've seen it every single time. You were someone who's like, no, there's no problem in childhood. Then, okay, yeah, there's a problem in childhood. Don't know that I want to go there. But then you learn these. And for the first time in your life, you actually have the connection we all wanted in childhood. We get it. We get the mother. We get the father. We get it. It's like, it's the exact, that's what I always talk about when you're standing here considering doing, pursuing the things I talk about. You go, oh my God, I'm going to lose. This is going to be terrible. All these things are, no, oh my God, that'll be the worst thing ever. But once you make the choice and you get here, you look back and go, wow, that was all bullshit. None of that happened. It was all wrong. And my God, this is so easy. It's a little discomfort. It just, as you said in the beginning, it's disorienting. But there's a knowing of safety and trust and that I'm on the right path. And for the first time in your life, you can see, oh my God, that's purgatory. That's where the hell is. It's back there. It's in all those false beliefs and in staying here and not making the choice. And it always ends up just like I wrote about in my book when I finally basically did the same thing with my dad. And I've seen it with everybody, that we get a level of intimacy and connection with our parents, even with those rare homes where it was mostly a good childhood, it explodes in a way you're just like, wow, I never thought this would be
Beautifully said.
possible. Where you are now, how does your life look now compared to what's it, a little over a year ago when we met?
Yeah.
In the year, what's different? Like how? Like I know, but in 1 year, how much has your life changed?
The biggest thing is the most important things to me, the meaningful things are going the way I want them to go and are showing up.
There you go.
So before, my focus would be, it was just an obsession with money, a frantic obsession. And sometimes it worked in terms of seeming like it was going great. I'll be honest, like it changes for everyone, but sometimes when you can have great paydays in a short period of time, you can feel on top of the world, but then you start asking, what the heck am I going to do with all this money? Or like, okay, is it going to be here? Like, then you start even worrying about losing the money, which is stupid because you're like, well, I was worried about getting the money, not worried about losing the money. Like, what is going on? So what's happened is, as far as money, there's a peace around it. No matter how much is coming in and going out, no matter what's happening with it. There's no more of this frantic, like, impulse to it. And there's no more of this frantic, like, I gotta hold on tight to it. In relationships, I was an extreme avoidant of any type of vulnerability. I didn't even know it. And yesterday I was sharing with just my lover, Vanessa, that I was like, I cry almost every day with you. Like,
Yeah.
I've never had this happen. I'm like, I can't.
And you feel incredibly manly when you do it too. It's not emasculating. Yeah.
It comes full of, I tell you, it comes full of joy. Because I can feel the feminine ratings in a way where it just flows through my entire body. And my goodness, it's a turn on. Like, it is masculine. And that's the reason why there are tears of joy, because it's such an overwhelming joy. that sensation is like nothing else. I realized I could not feel that before because I couldn't feel. My feelings were just completely numb. I mean, I remember a few years back, I went through a horrible, horrible, disastrous breakup and experience in which I remember I thought I was bragging, saying the volume of feelings has turned all the way down to zero, so I feel nothing, I thought it was so great, right? Could make me a better businessman that way, right? But then I realized it's not about avoiding your emotions; it's about controlling what's going on. Like being able to have power is it's focused around that, not in I just don't want to look. I don't want to get into that because it had closed my heart. By opening my heart, that's how I was able to invite a relationship, invite the possibility of somebody that will be healthy in my life and not repeat the same mistakes from the past.
Yeah.
And then with my family, as I said, it's brought family dinners, something that never happened, conversations that are meaningful, something that never happened in the family, where we never talked. I mean, I felt pretty estranged in the past. I never even wanted to visit for holidays. A lot of people would ask me, "Do you miss your family?" I'm like, "No, I don't." Now, I actually, maybe that's a beautiful thing, right? I get the feeling of missing my
Yeah. You can accept them for where they are, and there's a joy and peace. That's the common experience is wherever any aspect of your life is, financially, relationally, family, you're just okay. Everything's working, and there's an acceptance, and it's not hard. Because when you can shift the feel, when you clear out all those painful feelings that you talked about, "Oh, I don't feel, I'm going to suppress, I'm just going to deny them and shut them off." And those make us angry, numb, blank, scared, anxious. They're never shut off. And so when you open it up, it's joy. And joy is very quiet, very peaceful. It's not, there's a tremendous comfort. And so if there's a little spout with somebody, it's just like, isn't this great?
family.
That's just where it ends up. And that's what I hear you describing. Is that a fair description?
Yeah, you move through things a lot quicker too. I've noticed. I remember in my childhood that with my mother and my stepfather, if something happened, that negative anger, emotion, especially for my stepfather, would be lingering all over the family for days.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be like this awkward silence, and you know, I did notice in past relationships how that would actually become a part of my dynamic, and I didn't want it to be, but it was impulsively happening, and now being able to take control of that and have just this dissolve those emotions as quickly as possible.
Yeah. One last question. Do you think that learning emotional mastery and learning the things you've learned in the university and all the different things that um, it's not a fit for certain people, that it's only meant for this type of person?
You could say that. What I see with emotional mastery is that if you're the kind of person who does want to take control over the future, what the future brings, and learn and grow through the hardships instead of just waiting, instead of just going, well, let's see if they change, instead of just hoping for the best, then emotional mastery is the best thing anyone could do to take that power, put that power in their hands, and just unfold the beautiful things in life they want in all aspects of
So then who's it not for?
it. It is definitely not for somebody that is in a place where they just can't, like, they feel like they can't take responsibility. Like, you just want to stay blaming someone else, or let me think about this a little bit more. I would say that emotional mastery would be very hard for somebody that is exhausted, they're tired because of all the hardships. But I'll be honest, I think those are the people that need it the most. I think emotional mastery is also going to be hard for people that are used to, just feeling uncomfortable with taking responsibility. That rather say, well, this person's that way, or that person said that. And I've been there. I've been the guy that says the problem's with you, so do something about it. Whether it's a friend, client, or lover, and it never goes in the right direction that way. So what I see is this: emotional mastery can be either not a right fit, seem like it, or be really hard for a person that is doing all those things. But what I would say even to that person is, if you just give it a chance, give it a few days, a few weeks, give it something, you'll see that just like me, once you give it a chance and just have an open perspective, open up your perspective at least. You can say no later, but just open yourself up. And it may just change your life like you never imagined in the most positive ways. What's the worst that could happen otherwise if life isn't really going the way you really want it to go?
It's a great place to end it. Is whether you think it's for you or against you, what's the worst thing that could happen? And has everything else you've tried, has it gotten you to where you want? And if not, what's the worst thing that could happen? It stays the same, or it becomes everything you've always wanted. That's the choice in front of you, I guess. Is that a fair way of saying it? Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate you sharing your experience, your fears. Experience, strength, and hope. Can never tell somebody what to do. You can just share your experience, strength, and hope, and they can listen to it and go, you know what, that works for me, and I'm willing to investigate more. And then they share their experience, strength, and hope. And but ultimately, it's a personal choice. What do you want out of your life, and what are you willing to do to get what you want out of your life? And is what you're doing working or not? And if it's not working, it's an option. So I guess I'll leave it at that. Anything you'd like to say? Why don't I let you end it with something you'd like to say?
If you know that you've been settling, this is for you. If you know you're capable,
Yeah.
this is for you. If deep inside there's a hint that your future could be better, this is for you.
I'm biased, of course. I've seen the transformation of thousands of people, so I'm like, yeah, you're right on. I would agree with what you said. If you want all of that, and you know you're meant for more, and you haven't found a process to get you there, this will do it.